So good afternoon everybody. Myself Acharya Vishvendra, and this is my second video on my book AVA the Algorithm. So I have discussed the basic introduction of the book and the emotional conflicts as a major challenge students face while preparing for competitive exam. Now let's discuss about the preface, that how the idea of book came into my mind. So I'd like to share my experience when I was preparing for JEE. So when I was preparing, I struggled a lot to learn the process of solving problems. I realized that my past learning during my schooling is not sufficient to solve problems. Actually, in schooling, the teachers had a fixed pattern. The teachers have memorized certain information and they just expected us to accept that information as it is without asking any question. But when a teacher was teaching me, my natural curiosity was to ask him the question that, sir, from where this thing came? I was not a student who can accept anything as it is. And I had seen that teachers teach what they know. They don't teach what is asked in the exam. So there was always a conflict with the teachers. I used to ask them questions which are asked in JEE. I used to have a PYQ book with me and standard books like H.C. Verma, Iredov, D.C. Pandey, Rashmi Khalide. But the teachers used to avoid them. It seems to me from their facial expression that they are not comfortable in solving the problems given in those books. And instead of accepting their weakness or their inability to solve the problems, they become egoistic and try to talk to me in a very rude manner so that I don't ask them the question. But I was a very tough guy. I never responded to any of the rude behavior of the teacher and kept them asking the question until I get an answer. So I was a student of that sort. And I realized that the teachers used to work on limited information and limited prototype based questions. On an average, a chapter had 3 or 4 formulas, and during schooling I was able to solve all the questions using 3 to 4 formulas because all of them were based on certain prototype based problems, and revising those limited formulas give me the confidence to score good in school. For example, there is a chapter in mathematics called quadratic equation, which is ax square bx plus c is equal to 0. Roots are minus b plus minus root b square minus 4ac by 2a. This is expression for root. Then sum of roots is minus b by a. Then product of roots are c by a. Graph is a parabola. Parabola in the sense that this is x, this is y. So it can be either like this or like this depending on the sign of a. So you can solve the entire questions of quadratic equations using these 3-4 formulas, which is asked in the school exams. But the real problem arises when you prepare for JEE, and there are certain good books in mathematics like Ida Sutta, Holland Knight, S.L. Noni. So these books covers questions from a perspective of open-ended thinking. They give you the wings to explore, to learn, to know rather than to believe. So this strategy which I was using in school days didn't work well while solving questions from the good books. And even teachers didn't help me out. They projected their belief systems on me, giving me motivation that you should study for long hours. I tried everything. I studied for 12 to 13 hours, but my problem was not solved. After no solution from fellow teachers, from friends, from family, I started my journey of finding solutions myself. I started the process of finding solution rather than asking solutions. And this book is the outcome of that. So let's proceed further with things. So there were certain books like H.C. Verma, Iridau, D.C. Pandey, Rashmi Khalide, Edas Gupta, Holland Knights, S.L. Lania, D. Sharma in mathematics, in organic chemistry by J.D. Lee, it's a very standard book. Physical chemistry by Dr. P. Bahadur, and organic chemistry by Morrison and Boyd. These are some of the standard books which are still used by the students. Now I was very comfortable with natural thinking. I had a very natural inclination toward philosophical questions of life. I used to think that what is fundamental source of information in books. For example, take any book. So the information written in those books are compiled by the author. Now question comes from where author got that information. So obviously author must have seen some other book or referred to some other book. Now again question comes from where information came in that book. So information must have come from the secondary level of book, from the third level, and ultimately it maps to a scientist who had experimented on nature, and he has just observed certain patterns occurring in nature which are open-ended, which are free to access, which anybody can access. It's not that there are only certain mind-brain system, only certain people who can access the knowledge. Anybody can access the knowledge, given that his mind-brain system resonates at a certain frequency. So the fundamental question is that what is source of information, the fundamental source. So information comes through books. Books fundamentally are written by some scientist, and scientists get the information from experiments, and experiments are done on nature. So very fundamentally we can say that the fundamental source of information is the nature itself. If gravity exists, it's not because of Sir Isaac Newton or Sir Albert Einstein or any great scientist or any author or any teacher. These laws are occurring in the nature. Teacher or the author or the scientist has just decoded a certain pattern of the nature out of billions and billions of patterns. So the first thing that was very clear to me is that teacher is not the source of information. The real source of information is nature. Teacher is just a mediocre person, a mediator of connecting you to the nature. That is the fundamental task of the teacher, that teacher just creates an emotional state. It changes your vibrational frequencies so that you are getting connected to the nature, rather than filling you with information, with belief systems, with the intention of making you the mental slave of the teacher. So this is the purpose behind writing this book, so that students gets connected to the nature by themselves without being trapped by the mental hallucinations created by the teacher. Because what I have felt in my life is teachers try to impose their belief systems on you. They don't let you to think independently. Rather, they force you to accept the way of thinking of the teacher. And I was always a rebellion type of person in my nature. I always seek for the fundamental source of information. Even when my father used to motivate me about life and used to force me to do certain things, I used to ask him cross questions. So I was, in fact, I am a person of that sort. I always seek information from the fundamentals. I'll continue in the next video. Thank you.